Should have done the minutes. We should have.
Okay, good evening. This is a work session of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Sleepy Hollow. I'd like to ask for a motion to go into a special session as our first order of business so that we can extend the comment period on the, extend the public hearing rather, on the comprehensive plan and the LWRP.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstentions? Okay, this is a special session the Board of Trustees called for one reason, and that is to consider a resolution to continue the public hearing on our comp plan and LWRP.
I'd like to make a motion to extend the public comments section for emails and written transmissions until September 3rd, Tuesday, 2019.
Second.
So moved.
Close of business?
Close of business.
Okay, let's make it till 7, just in case.
7 p.m.
Okay. It's so moved with that time and seconded.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? All right, the resolution is approved. Just a quick comment. Folks will recall that a few weeks ago, I said one of the things we were going to do is put out a list of things that we being the Board of Trustees, wanted to change in the draft comprehensive plan and the draft LWRP without having to amend both of those documents and then do another public hearing in order to allow people the opportunity to comment on the our proposed changes. So we're going to put out something that's going to be a statement or a memo, a written document, and this will allow people to read that and have time to absorb it and then comment to us on those proposed changes to both of those documents. So that's why we're doing this. And that's why we're extending the public hearing now. So obviously we haven't put that document out yet, so we need to extend the time so you all will have the opportunity to respond to our comments. One other quick thing I would just like to say, we've oddly enough received more comments on one small part of the overall plan and of the LWRP, and that is this idea that there could be a marina at Horan's Landing. And if you read through both the comprehensive plan and the LWRP, you'll see language like, so there could be, it says could be, or potential for a marina, things like that. And I've been seeing a lot of comments from folks that live in the village and from others, frankly, who don't live in the village about how there is a plan. And I am totally unaware of any plan. And I'm the mayor, so I would think I would know. There is no public plan, there's no private plan. I am completely unaware of any private developer or citizen or person or entity who has said that they want to create a marina either at Horan's or anywhere else on the riverfront. So it's like, folks, read what's in there. Many of you have had, and we've gotten very detailed comments based on that. Many of you have not and are going forward with some real misinformation. So please just kind of slow down a little bit, read what's there before you comment on that. It's gotten to the point where there's a number of folks who are pro-boating activity, who we're hearing from, a lot of folks now, who are hearing that the anti-marina people are trying to prohibit any boating activity anywhere on the waterfront in Sleepy Hollow. That's not exactly what I've seen from folks, so there's some misinformation there as well. I'm just asking everybody, please read what is in both draft documents. Make your comments based on that, not on something that somebody who talked to somebody who read it is saying. Like, read it yourself and then make your informed comments, okay? We would appreciate that. And we look forward to hearing those, or rather reading those informed comments. So I want to thank you. for those of you who have responded, and I'm looking forward to more thoughtful responses. I know we all are.
Mr. Mayor, may I add one thing? When are
Of
we
course.
going to be publishing the next updated version of the plan? Because we did have a meeting last week where we had submitted some recommended changes.
Yes, we not all of those changes have been put into document form yet. So I would say we're not going to issue an updated plan. It will be comments on the plan.
Right.
Just to make sure that we're totally clear on that. And my expectation is that we'll be able to do that sometime in the next 2 weeks, that it will circulate among us,
Right.
So that we have a chance to review the document and make sure we're good with it before we put it out
Yeah.
to folks. So we're shooting for a Labor Day to be done with the public hearing. Obviously, we have 60 days after that to adopt both plans. My feeling is if we don't feel that we're ready at Labor Day, and we want to extend the public hearing, we'll do that. So we just want to make sure that we're comfortable with moving forward
Yeah.
on that. So it's a educated guess
Yeah.
that we should be ready in a couple
No,
of weeks.
I just mentioned that is because, we have been looking at everybody's comments that come in. And so whatever letters come in, we read them, public comments, we hear them, and everything is being considered.
Absolutely. Thank you. Can I get a motion to end the special session?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? And we're done with the special session and back in our work session. And our first discussion item is really about a new street sweeper, Mr. Ballard and Mr. Giacchio. But before we move any further, I think Mr. Giacchio wanted to make an introduction.
Yes, I just wanted to introduce to the board another intern that I've had for the last few weeks here at Village Hall, Kathleen Sequenza. She's a Sleepy Hollow resident. She's been doing some important work for us. She helped out our community liaison with getting a database for all businesses in the downtown. She's helped out our deputy clerk with some filing and some work with that. And she's pretty much shadowed almost every department in the village. So I did want to thank her for her work here. I did ask her to come to a board meeting, see how you guys function, and I think this is a good experience for her. She's a political science major and lawyer, right? She wants to be a lawyer at Pace University, so we wish her luck with that.
I'm not sure that the world needs another lawyer, but
A good lawyer.
good luck with that. I know many people who've actually gone to law school because they enjoyed the rigor of the training, but don't practice as lawyers. So good luck with that. And officially, we've met, obviously, but officially, on behalf of the board, welcome. And we're glad you're here. Thank you for your work. And don't be so loud.
Yeah, sit down.
Yeah, get close.
All right. You got 30 seconds.
No, I was just saying thank you. I didn't know if you might be talk or not because it was recording. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah. You can send your family the link to the website and they can all watch your performance, okay? You were great, by the way, okay? All right, thanks again. Let's move on to that first discussion item. Mr. Giacchio, Mr. Ballard.
Go ahead.
Good evening. I was asked to look into our sweeper, the purchase of a new sweeper. We are currently renting one that is very costly, and it's not the end of what we need to do. And I think just to add to that, there's a lot of talk in the industry that the New York State DEC will require more and more sweeping to be done. They're already requiring us to document what streets we're on and where, so it's going to be a very valuable piece of equipment for the environment and keep our streams clean. So with that, I have never heard of a global machine before, but I recently have been learning a lot about it. I'm dealing with 4 vendors right now to find out the best fit for us, and that's based upon their price, their availability for delivery, their service location, their warranty, their references from other municipalities, their demo when they come by and they show it. There's a few more that have to come by, and then their offering of service contract. Just briefly, the Global has been with New York City Department of Sanitation since 1985 with over 350 sweepers in operation. Their price ranges from like $200,000 to $285,000. What's nice about it is that they're right here in Bronxville. It's factory direct, and they have 5 technicians that just deal with sweepers all day long. I'm having such a hard time with the Elgin dealer who's down in Long Island and Farmingdale. It's not the only thing he does for a business. This is a very minor part of his business, so it's very difficult to get parts, to get the service that we need, to get the attention. What's nice also about the dealer is he does not give out a dealership for New York City. He owns and controls it. So we would be dealing directly with the factory, with all the warranties, and even on the source contract, which most municipalities buy off of, will be at a discount price because we're buying directly from him, if we do decide to go that way. Another thing, he'll be the first company that will come out with an all-electric sweeper. It's not our cup of tea because it's like $430,000, but you can see he's on the edge of all that. We're also dealing with a Johnson manufacturer who's also local here in Hawthorne. He actually uses his machines to give out service contracts to municipalities. He gave us a quote. Ours would have been anywhere from $70,000 to $90,000 annually, based upon minimal sweeping. So I'm in discussions with him. My only reason to deal with Elgin right now, because of the service I feel was very poor with them, and I believe that the machine should not have had such a short life of only 6 years, was because he's offering us anywhere from a $17,000 to $20,000 trade-in of our old machine. So I don't know what we can do with that machine on the market, but it is a little enticing. When I really got down to the nuts and bolts of the Elgin machine, I had the same question that most of the trustees had approached me about. Why is it that the old Elgins are still up and running and not this one? Well, the reason that is it became a very complicated machine. And the way they designed the machine, it's very difficult to get to areas in there to service them. And then the electronics is very high-end. So everything is practically outsourced. You have to take the whole sweeper carriage down to get in there. It's not a good machine, in my opinion, but again, we're talking to them. And the last one is a Timco machine. And the reason why I work with them, and they've been here and they demoed, is it might not be the best sweeper. He may have to do it once or twice, but it is basically a vacuum on a truck chassis. So it's very simple, very easy to maintain. So with all that, we're doing our due diligence to get all this together. I feel that probably within 2 weeks I can make a strong recommendation to you. If you would like to join us on our demos as they bring the machines in, I'd be more than happy to show you what they're all about.
Yeah.
And I think it needs to take a little bit of time because it's expensive, and we want to make sure we get the right fit for us. I am excited about the New York City DOS. I mean, for a vendor to be there since 1985 speaks volumes, you know, and New York City DOS is not an easy client. They're tough on their machines, and they're tough on their vendors. So with that,
So, Wayne, are we renting only one, and how many do we have in service?
we have none in service, and we're renting one.
So, and the proposal is to buy one?
To buy one, correct.
Just buy one, and
Yeah.
that will be able to service the entire,
Yeah, I feel that with
Village?
17 miles, linear miles that we have, we typically get through the village twice in 2 weeks. And within that 10-day working period, the downtown village usually gets done twice. So I think it's a good fit for us.
Mhm.
One machine, it's local, 17 miles. I had one machine, I was doing 287 miles over in Clarkstown.
So you talk about the village right in here. Do you believe that the debris would be picked up with a better product, or that we need to do it more times? Because I'll be honest with you, we still see a lot of debris. I don't know if it's because we've had our sweeper out of service for so long and it wasn't very good and then we rented. But, it begs me to ask the question, do we have to do it more times? Or if we get a better product,
All
we
right,
can?
it's a great question, and there's a
It's
couple,
concerning.
there's a couple of variables to that.
Okay,
The one is, we should be out there a little bit more often,
okay,
but the alternate side of the parking hinders us.
okay.
And I would be more than willing to bring back to the board a proposal, just change a few locations, because they hit one area, and then they have to run somewhere else,
Okay,
and then they have to run back, so that's not too cost effective. The other issue is, when you have high renters versus ownership,
mm-hmm,
the public tend not to care about the property as much, and sometimes it's an educational thing. I am so grateful that you've done that database for us. As you know, I'm not shy to reach out to the businesses. Having our liaison would be a great thing to start talking to them and to educate them a little bit more about, you know, why it's important, because sometimes it's a cultural thing, you know, they're just, you know, they like to sit on the stoops and have a good time, and then it's a little messy there and cleaning it up. So I think it's sweeping more often. I think there's a change to the alternate side of the street parking, and then a reach out to the public. I think those three things will address that issue.
that's very well said, and I really appreciate that. Actually, when you do make the proposal of the piece of equipment, can you also bring into effect any alternate side of this parking as a consideration, and working with the building department on compliance?
Yeah,
So
I
that
mean,
it's
it was-
all done at the same time, so we can really look at
Yeah,
that and evaluate it?
actually, I just got a photograph. I didn't get a chance to show it to Anthony yet. But our new assistant sanitation foreman, it showed me a couple of streets where there's two sides parking at the same time, and they barely get the compactor up there.
Mhm.
So that we have to definitely change, even if,
Mhm.
just to make it a little bit easier so they can get in and out and get the can. So, yeah, a little adjustment.
Thank you.
Okay.
So when you're going to come back with the pricing
Yeah.
options and all that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Let us know when you have the demos.
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
So what's our current rental arrangement? Are we renting it on an annual basis, on a monthly?
Monthly.
Monthly? And what are we paying a month to rent it?
6,000? What is it? 6,000, right?
I think it was 300 a day, right?
I think it's 6,000 a month.
6,000 a
Yeah.
month? So 72,000 a year? And you're looking at potentially spending 200 to 250 on a new one?
High end 285, low end 200.
And what's the life expectancy on the Global?
I'd say 7 to 10 years. I'm gonna get more information on it.
It's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, and you have control over it. You know, I mean, it's like, for example, when I was talking, at one point, we were thinking about outsourcing, and if you have a parade, it's another cost. If you have a spill, it's another cost.
It makes all the
And
sense in the
it
world.
ties your hand as to the availability.
One of the things we talked about too is whether or not to operate it in the wintertime, or operate it limited in the wintertime, because it does wear and tear on the machine.
Mhm.
So that's something we could discuss too.
And the one that we're renting now, is it a relatively new machine?
It's one of those old Elgins that they keep them alive, but the newer ones, it's just, you can't
We'll
get
have a
in
better
there.
product and it'll cost us less.
Yeah.
So we brought this to your
Wait till he
attention.
makes the recommendation before you move.
I'm already gonna,
Well, we brought it to you sooner than later because of the cost to rent.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on the capital budget discussion, but we wanted to put this ahead of it because it is kind of an emergency, you know, financially.
Right.
So that's why it's before you now.
Wayne, is there any product in particular that we can get quicker, like in terms, like is Global?
No,
Do they have some on the lot right now?
yeah, I have a chart, and some are willing to give us their demos
Right,
with like a few hours on them, and I know Global said they could be here in 30 days.
okay.
So we have that, and that's a big factor, because if I can't see a
Right.
machine for a year,
Right.
you know,
Well, I just think having, I just know Global is used in New York City. If they have a few hundred of them down there, they have technicians
yeah.
who work around the clock. I'm sure, if we have a problem, you're gonna get quick service
Oh,
as opposed to
the fact that he's right here is amazing.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
5 mechanics dedicated to
And I
it.
just want to say, one of the things I'm listening to you tonight, and one of the things I'm so happy about personally, is that we decided to hire you because you're looking at things like a blank slate, and
Yeah.
you're saying, hey, we should change this, or, you know, these are recommendations that we need to hear. I know we have a new, you know, we just promoted Chucky,
Yeah,
and he's looking at things also, and that's what.
Fresh
you-
perspective,
You know, that's
yeah.
really what we want, so
Yeah.
equipment, how we do it, and, you know, our processes and methods have to improve, and this is some of the things.
it's great to hear it from the guys in the field.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones living with it every day. I mean, when Chucky came in with the photographs, he says, look, I could do this better, you know?
Right.
Or at Horan's Park with the building of the kayak park.
Right.
We have a better way of doing it. It's all good stuff, yeah, very,
Yeah.
And
So
the-
thank you.
the
Yeah.
f- The fact that it will have a positive impact on us environmentally is a factor as well. I mean, a great example is the rainstorm that we just had last night. The catch basins that I drove by, there was a tremendous amount of stuff sitting on top of them. And there were an awful lot of debris went into the catch basins before they got clogged. And they all wind up in the Hudson River or the Mechanico.
what was
or
interesting about
Fremont
today,
Pond.
when I did my drive around, was to see the reverse, which is, especially by you, it was so overwhelming, the water that came through that it brought the debris up, and it's all over the roadway. I was up on up Fremont, and there's a whole washout there, so,
Yeah.
yeah, and we want a machine that can get in there and clean up. I mean, I'm telling you, the eye-opener for me was New York State DEC said, okay, Wayne, how often are you sweeping those streets? We want to see your charts. We want to see what days they're at. What did you pick up? What are your quantities? I mean, they're really getting very definitive. This is never done before in all my time doing this, so,
That's good.
It's coming.
yeah, it's coming.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to
Thank
hearing
you, Wayne.
shortly.
Thanks, Wayne.
All right, we're going to move on. Our next discussion item is a prisoner transport IMA. Chief Weddy?
Good evening. So this is our, we do it every 2 years. This is an update of our IMA with when we transport prisoners to and from the county jail. The county does reimburse us. This new IMA reflects the raises that the officers got, as well as the mileage increase.
So this is, otherwise, it's the same
Same
agreement that we've
agreement.
had.
With the
and-
monetary values.
And
are
with
up.
the compensation updated to today's numbers.
Correct.
And I was going to say, is it working well? And then the next question is like, is there an alternative?
Is it working well? Yes. An alternative would be, I believe we could have the county correction facility transport prisoners for us on our court day, which we would have to clear with them, and they would dictate what day our court is.
Which means we would have to keep
But we
them
would
here
still-
until,
Right, they would have to stay through the whole proceeding. It still doesn't alleviate when we have a prisoner that has to, that's remanded to county jail, we would still be doing that transportation.
well, it's been working well. I would like to, with your recommendation, obviously, to renew it. I'd like to put it on for next week. Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yeah, how much was it increased?
It was actually increased 4%, just for the contract year, because they didn't get the PVA was out without a contract for that time, that covered it last year. So that reflects the 2% raise,
2% each year.
2% each year, correct.
And that's across the board for all the municipalities.
Yes. Yeah, one of the wardens will call us whenever it's time for update and ask about the increases in our CVAs.
We're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Chief. Don't go anywhere. All right, we've been considering updating our alarm permit policy, and I know we received some recommendations for some changes from our building department, from Mr. McCarthy. Chief, have you had a chance to review those, and do you have your own comments on what you would like to see changed, and
No, I do agree with Inspector McCarthy's changes.
mhm. And the reason that we would be making these changes is because the policy has not been adequate in covering our needs.
I think there's a couple issues. One is enforcement, to tighten up the language, make it easier for us to enforce it. Two is to make it easier on the resident to understand what his expectation is to get a permit. The other thing is, I don't believe we have anything in the books for carbon monoxide alarms and other kinds of alarms, so we wanted to make it clear. So there's just a lot of clarification that we need to make, so it's easier to understand for everybody.
What did you want to make clear about carbon monoxide alarm?
Just identify it in the code.
As,
That will define the types of alarms that apply to this permit.
okay,
Right, I believe the way it's read now, it's either burglar or fire.
all right.
But it's in the code that you need to have a carbon monoxide.
Yes,
It's
for, as
gotta
far
be
as the building
hardwired,
inspector, yeah.
right? Yeah.
So those types of things. I think one of the things we should also discuss is, right now, I believe that if someone has an alarm go off and they don't have a permit, we just simply fine them the cost of the permit and they get one. So we might want to think about fining them more and charging them less for the permit to encourage people to get the permit, because it is important for us to have that. So we could discuss that at some point with regards to the fees and the fines.
Is there a multiple fine, a multiple alarm penalty
There-
fine?
There is, yeah.
There is, it's, your first two false alarms and no charge, you just issued a warning. Alarms 3 and 4 that are false, are $75 per occurrence,
What's the time frame, like, if it happens?
yearly,
So within a year?
within a year.
And that's if you have a permit already?
That's if you have a permit already. 5 to 10 are 150 per occurrence, and more than 10 are $200 per occurrence.
What's the fee right now?
For alarm permit, $250?
So you're not proposing to
$250 for
raise?
commercial, it's $100 for residential.
Are you proposing to raise the fee, or just to raise it in the case of them not having, the
Yeah.
penalty for them not having?
Yes, raise the penalty, maybe even either reduce the fee or maybe the renewal fee, reduce that. So to make it, the intent is to get a permit, it's not to charge, to
Right,
Yeah.
make money.
yeah.
So we'd rather encourage them to do that.
Sounds good.
I think it's if you can explain it, it's a partnership between the homeowner and our fire department and police. If you get the permit, we all know who you are and you have an alarm. When you respond, you may even have a key if they leave it with you or whatever, layout of the house, what's
Right, and-
happening. So you would almost want to register your alarm.
Yes, and it's great for a notification system.
Yeah.
If, in fact, there was an incident.
Whose
Or we
phone
could get a
number are we
hold of
calling?
somebody, right.
So,
Because the way our application is now, not only is, it's your contact, and there's also secondary emergency contacts.
right.
And there's also, I think part of the penalty part of it is about focusing on frequent flyers. There's some folks who just can't seem to get their alarms
Yeah.
adjusted properly, and how many times does the fire department have to come out to
It's
a
a drain on
it turns out to
resources.
not be an emergency,
Yeah.
and the police, and, it's like, there are some businesses that certainly fall in that category.
What I'd like to do is, maybe we'll talk further and discuss this with Clinton. Maybe you can draft a update to the code and,
Then
For you
we'll
guys
do a
to
public hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Makes sense.
just as usual, make sure that the draft change in the public hearing gives us enough room to move, so that, make the penalties 1,000 each and step it up to 50,000 or whatever. So that's a little extreme, but something so that we can ratchet it down, and, same thing with the other pieces.
I believe LAPD is up to 500 for your first offense. Or no, maybe your second offense is 500. And I want to say they may be up to 1,000 on the second, and then the third possible false alarm, they respond with a delay. It's not a priority call anymore.
I know, DPW comes and takes down your building, so. You know, if it's, all kidding aside, it's sometimes when we have proposed changes in the code, and they've seemed pretty extreme, which we've done on purpose to give ourselves that room to, encourage more people to come out, which is good, because we want to hear from people, so. All right, so we're good. We'll move forward with that. We look forward to seeing that draft from Clinton, and we'll go from there. Thanks, Chief. Look, I have, that completes our work session agenda. I've got a personnel matter that I need to bring the board up to speed on, and a couple of legal things, so I'd appreciate if we could go into executive session to discuss those. If somebody can make a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstentions? Okay, this is an executive session of the Board of Trustees. I expect that we will come back and take no further action this evening other than ending the executive session, and then we'll end our work session. So thank you and good night.
Good night.